excited to be here. I am somewhat disappointed because just this type of event, I wish this was packed. It should be crawling with people. Because just like this gentleman, Herod, you just spoke to, listen, it takes all of us of one being, one mind, one body. It's almost like one sound, just like a band. Anything to be successful, it takes all of us to work in a collaborative effort. So I'm just appreciative to be here today. And like I said, I'm hoping that I can contribute something. This may be a little tough of what I prepared, but I wanted to actually put my thoughts down as a young man who grew up in this community. And so please just bear with me. So hopefully I can get through it in about 10 minutes, but I wanted to just share some of my thoughts with you all, if you don't mind. So first of all, once again, I am a man called Shante Goodjoyner. And it is truly a pleasure to be here with you today as we celebrate Race Amity Day. See, I am no great orator, nor do I consider myself much of an entertainer. So the list of available speakers must have been pretty slim. And I was at the event with Mr. Sterling a few weeks ago, and that's a tough act to follow, so it's really tough. But either way, I am grateful for this opportunity to share my perspective on the importance of this day, which has been officially observed since 1957 as a Race Unity Day. I was taught at a young age to be myself and share honestly from my own experiences. So I want to begin there. You may have noticed that I introduced myself as a man called Shante Goodjoyner. See, I chose those words intentionally. Goodjoyner is certainly not a name that originated in what most now call Africa. Like millions of people throughout history, my ancestors were renamed, their languages replaced, and their identities altered. Many people throughout history have been forced to accept new names, new customs, new religions, and unequal treatment simply to survive. See, that reality reminds us that race has never only been about skin color. It has also been about power, identity, belonging, and the struggle to be fully recognized as a human being. See, these ideas that shaped race as we know it today did not appear by accident. Historian and scholar Ibram X. Kendi argues that Portuguese slave traders in the 1450s helped create the concepts of black and white as tools to classify human beings and justify the growing African slave trade. What began as a system of economic exploitation eventually evolved into a hierarchy of human value. Centuries later, German anthropologist Johann Friedrich Blumenbach categorized humanity into 5 primary racial groups: Caucasian, Mongolian, Malayan, Ethiopian, and American. While his work was more nuanced than many later interpretations, others used these classifications to promote the false idea that some races were naturally superior to others. And then over time, these theories helped provide intellectual cover for slavery, segregation, colonialism, and white supremacy. I share this not to assign blame, but to remind us that race is a social construct that was created, refined, and institutionalized over 6 centuries. If it was created by people, it can also be dismantled by people.
Amen. Yep.
One of the reasons I share this history is that many of us were never taught it. 12 years of Greenville County Public School education, I certainly was not. See, I have learned that when history is incomplete, people often mistake the consequences of injustice for personal failure. If we do not understand how a system was built, it becomes difficult to understand why it continues to produce unequal outcomes. Ironically, I was invited here today to speak about peace and unity. Yet I grew up in a city, Greenville, South Carolina, where peace and unity were often promised, but not equally experienced. I began school in Greenville in 1982 at 5. Only 12 years after federally ordered school integration in 1970. So that was 16 years after Brown versus the Board of Education, right here in Greenville, South Carolina. See, for many of us, segregation is not ancient history. It is still alive, and it's still a vivid memory. As a child at about the age of 8, I remember coming to this park to play baseball with my cousin. I lived only 6 miles away from this park, yet this side of Greenville felt like a completely different world, and we never came here. Decades later, I learned that in 1964, Greenville officials would rather place zoo seals in the city's white-only swimming pool, only a few hundred yards away from here, than comply with federal desegregation orders. And decades later, I learned that Noagra C. Yarn, a Black Korean War veteran, arrested twice in 1 week in 1962 for purchasing a home in an all-white neighborhood. He courageously fought back and won one of South Carolina's earliest housing discrimination cases in 1963, something I never heard of. I also learned that Greenville native and future governor Carroll Campbell organized one of the nation's largest anti-school busing demonstrations. In 1970, he led a caravan of more than 3,000 vehicles from Greenville to Columbia in opposition of school integration. I also learned that Furman University was founded by a slave-owning Baptist minister. I learned that Clemson University benefited from the labor of more than 700 convicted laborers, many of them black boys as young as 12 and 13 years of age. See, I learned this from historian Joseph Mathis, a former teacher at Sterling High School and football coach of young Jesse Jackson. I think he was there during Mr. Ricky's time. And he spent years documenting a history that was often overlooked. Near what is now called Unity Park stood the old county jail. In 1870, all 16 inmates were listed as black. In 1880, all 27 inmates were listed as black. In 1881, 114 of 193 arrests involved black citizens. Those disparities still continue to this day. On June 17, 2015, a self-proclaimed racist entered the Mother Emanuel AME Church in Charleston and murdered 9 worshipers during Bible study. What many people do not know, that only hours before his attack, he visited the Museum and Library of Confederate History right here on Boyce Avenue, less than a half a mile from here, seeking inspiration for the hatred that he already carried in his heart. I know many people may say, oh, Shantae, those stories, what is it, that's so long ago. Really, it's not. See, everyone is entitled to their opinion, but I'm from here. And I still see the consequences and repercussions of many of these acts. See, today, Greenville remains one of the most segregated cities in America. Wealth disparities persist, housing disparities persist, educational disparities persist, health disparities persist, and this is documented in the City of Greenville's Executive Summary of 2023. And I say this, you all, because this is why Race Amity Day matters. On July 5th, 1952, in Rochester, New York, Frederick Douglass once asked, what to the slave is the 4th of July? Douglass was not rejecting the ideals of freedom. He was challenging America to live up to them. So likewise, I do not reject the ideals of Race Amity Day. I embrace them. But I also ask whether we have fully achieved them. The Baha'i Faith teaches that the oneness of humanity, not mere tolerance, but genuine oneness. Not diversity for diversity's sake, but the belief that humanity is one family. Imagine what would happen if every school embraced that principle. Imagine what would happen if every church, business, government agency, and elected official embraced that principle. See, many of the divisions we struggle with today will begin to disappear. Too often we hear people say, I don't see color. I understand the intention, but I want each of you to see my color. I want you to know my history. my culture, and my experiences. Then I want you to recognize that despite our differences, we possess equal worth, equal dignity, and equal humanity. See, acknowledging differences is not racism. It is often the first sign of respect. The truth is that progress has occurred. And throughout the history of this country, it has taken great courage and sacrifice by open-minded men and women of all races working collectively for us to congregate side by side even here today. Yet, we still need a designated day reminding us to respect one another across racial lines. Then our work definitely is not finished. Race amity should not be confined to one Sunday in June. Just my personal opinion. It should be practiced every day in our homes, schools, workplaces, houses of worship, and in public life. And as someone who spends much of his life organizing people across lines of race, faith, and class, I have learned that meaningful change begins when people choose relationships over fear, understanding over assumptions, and truth over comfort. So before I take my seat, I want to leave you all with one final thought. Race amity is not a destination. It is a discipline. It is not something we celebrate once a year. It is something we practice every day. Albert Einstein once said, peace cannot be kept by force. It can only be achieved by understanding. Many people do not even realize that Dr. Hans Albert Einstein spent part of his life here in Greenville during the 1930s and 1940s. I just wanted to make that connection to Greenville. I believe understanding begins with truth. Truth leads to a relationship. Relationship leads to trust, and trust creates the possibility of unity. So let us not be naive. See, we're still currently under attack. Political polarization, racial tension, and divisive rhetoric on every social media outlet designed to reverse the healing and the threat of peace and solidarity. Therefore, our intentionality here today is necessary and countercultural. May we leave here today committed not only to peace, but to understanding. Not only tolerance, but to relationship. And not only to celebrating Race Amity Day, but to making every day a day of race amity. My simple ask is that we please continue to lead with love, kindness, and respect wherever you all travel. I hope that didn't take up too much of your time.